let's get into the Pennzoil 400. Take a look at some drivers that we're watching ahead of this weekend. Very top of the board heavy for me, just because this is the bread and butter of what we got, right? You're going to see the elite contenders at the top, I feel like. And I'm looking at Kyle Busch, man. He sits at the top for me. He too has had one of the best cars, through the first 2 weeks. When you look at like Joey Logano and some of these other guys, he owns the best average finish at this track over the last 6 races. That's 5th place. He's 4th in driver rating over that span. Kyle Busch has been like concerningly calm, I feel like, through these first 2 weeks. Even his post race after Atlanta, like he seemed happy. He seemed smiley. He seemed just calm, cool, collected, like not KFB. He just seemed like Kyle Busch, He's not KFB yet. I want to see KFB. I think we're going to get a little more of that this weekend, because that 8 car has been fast and he has been able to finish and avoid trouble. So going to Vegas, he's got 1 win there. It's his home track. Chevrolet looking to continue to, carry this steam into this year. They have, like I had mentioned before, they just have been dominating across the board. So I'm excited to see what Kyle could do. And when you take a look at, Kyle Larson, who is just he's on, I feel like, an island of his own when looking at, drivers coming into this weekend. Kyle Busch is a driver who I think is getting slept on a little bit, especially in the market. His odds right now are plus 1,200.
I noticed that. Yeah.
And you look at Kyle Larson, who is just jacked to 4-1, and then Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Christopher Bell, just some of these other guys. Like Kyle Busch, he's as good as anybody at Vegas, and I think he's going to have the speed to show for it. So 12-1, and looking at it from a betting perspective, I think that number is only going to get shorter. So got to take advantage of it while you can. And I think 12-1 is an interesting number for Kyle, but I'm certainly going to be watching that 8 car and seeing if we can get a little bit of mojo, a little bit of swagger back for Kyle, who has been just like uncharacteristically quiet, I feel like, which maybe is a good thing, but I love the Kyle Busch when he's, when he's got the soundbite after soundbite, and we're looking for him to, really say what's on his mind. But I guess it's a changed Kyle to start the year, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I would definitely expect another Kyle and Kyle show this weekend. I think it's just one of both of their favorite, one of their best tracks. You mentioned his highest average finish in the last 3 years there, 5 top 5s in the last 6 races. That's pretty difficult to do anywhere, just to achieve that type of consistency across a team change in the middle. He hasn't won here in a long time, but he's coming off a really good start to the season, just with really high speed. And Larson, even though he wrecked out, he was happier than usual last week. And Vegas, 4 top 2s in the last 6 races there, including 2 wins. That's even tougher to do. He's led a quarter of the laps over the last 3 years there. That's way ahead of anybody else. He often leads over 100 laps at Vegas. But outside of the 2 Kyles, I'll probably look at Martin Truex Jr. I think I saw his name kind of somewhere in the middle, maybe 10-1 if I saw that correctly.
Yeah, he does have 10-1 over on DraftKings.
Yeah, so that's decent, and he has the most green flag passes in both races this year. He's been passing more cars than anybody else, and I think that's worth something. He was up front. He was close to winning Atlanta until Suarez, pulled up in front of him, and I guess he got aero tight and he got stuck in the 3rd lane, and back he went. Who knows what would have happened if he was right where those guys were.
Yeah.
But Vegas, he has 7 straight top 10s there, the 2nd highest average finish, and only 1 finish outside the top 15 since 2012.
That's big.
That's pretty wild there, and that's a lot of team changes over the last 12 years.
Sure, yeah.
He's a 2-time winner, so I think he's someone to pay attention to. And then we mentioned Bubba earlier. We know 2022, he had a great run going at Vegas before his retaliation with Larson. That was a real hot streak he was on at that point. And his 1.5 mile performance overall has been really strong. You think of Charlotte, Kansas. He's always a guy to watch. He was 4th in this race last year. So coming off of those back-to-back top 5s, he's in that right place at the right time, at the right type of track. I think Toyota can definitely mount a charge against Chevy this weekend.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The guy that I'm looking at in the Toyota camp this weekend is Christopher Bell. I think that he has the best chance of all these guys to kind of change the narrative. He was top 5 in both Vegas races last year. He's been consistently one of the best here in the next gen era. And Christopher Bell is just kind of like that one driver that we throw in the conversation of like the elite drivers, but I feel like he doesn't get the respect as much as like the Kyle Larsons, the William Byrons of the world when talking
Mhm.
about championship caliber drivers. And really kind of got that sense in full speed. I really became
Yeah.
a Christopher, like full speed really gave, I grew a lot of respect for Christopher Bell because he is kind of like that quiet guy because, he's very reserved on social media. He kind of keeps to himself. You don't really know kind of what's going on. He's just quiet. And he lets the results on track to show for it because he truly
Mhm.
believes that he can win multiple championships and win multiple races every single year, which is the expectation for Bell. I just
Mhm.
feel like when you talk about him in comparison to those other drivers mentioned, it's just there's a little bit of a lack of respect there. But we have to look
Mhm.
at Christopher Bell. I feel like just as much as a Kyle Larson or William Byron on a week to week basis because he's got the talent and he's got the consistency. And when it's all said and done, he's going to be the face of Joe Gibbs Racing in the not so distant future. So
Mhm.
I like Martin Truex Jr. a lot this weekend as well. I think the consistency and we always used to talk about Martin Truex Jr. as the mile-and-a-half master years ago when he was running for
Mhm.
Furniture Row, and even his first couple of years at Gibbs. But he's had the consistency as well. I just like Christopher Bell a little bit more. Not necessarily in the betting market. I think 9-1 is a little short to pay. But when you look at drivers, especially as it relates to fantasy, like for fantasy this weekend, I think you're going for all the heavy hitters. Like I would not
Mhm.
waste a spot on a potential like long shot sleeper or anything like that. You kind of had the first 2 weeks to kind of get creative with your lineups and do that. Daytona and Atlanta. Now I feel like is where you deploy the fleet of elite drivers. Your Kyle Larsons,
Mhm.
your Kyle Bushes, Truex, Denny, Logano. I think is going to be great this weekend. Again, if he could just find some of that good luck through the end of the race.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to be looking at a lot of top heavy drivers, though Bubba is one of those guys that's kind of mid pack that I do like. Another driver I was kind of thinking about was Alex Bowman. When you take a look at the Hendrick camp, he has a win here a couple of years ago. He's put together some good finishes. He's been very good in the spring race at Vegas, which I think,
Mhm.
is there really something to say about that? He was top 3 in the last 2, including
Yeah.
that win, like I mentioned. So I think he's a sneaky pick as well to just kind of be on the lookout for, see how this team unloads, or how they unload and how they practice and qualify for sure, and then see how they perform in race trim. But Alex, he's 25-1. I think it's a pretty decent number for him. If you're looking for more of like a long shot Chevrolet, I think Alex is the guy to go for. I will
Yeah.
just say this too. Daniel Suarez is 65-1. That seems absolutely crazy for a driver that just won last
Yeah.
week. And
Mhm.
you take a look at some of the drivers he's priced around. I mean, Eric Jones is 45-1, and Daniel Suarez is 65-1. That's just an incredible
That's
drop off,
wild.
I feel like.
Yeah.
And Suarez, I feel like, has been pretty solid at Vegas. So if you're looking for a real long shot just to kind of sprinkle a little bit on, maybe Suarez has some added value there. But
Mhm.
Bowman is the guy that I'm looking at, in like that 25-1 range, to see if he can find some momentum after being a casualty of that lap 2 crash in Atlanta. Didn't really
Yeah.
have much to show from his runner up at Daytona, but
Right.
um, I think Alex is going to be interesting this weekend.
Yeah, Bowman's interesting. I mean, I think overall Hendrick, that was one of the biggest storylines I brought up 2 weeks ago was how Hendrick's gonna bounce back from just the total mixed bag of 2023, and Chase was he really didn't get a fair shot. I feel on these first two especially Atlanta. He just kept getting caught up in other people's stuff. He got spun by Chastain, and Bowman didn't have any shot at all. But if he wins that 500, just give him another couple inches. Perhaps it's like a Suarez type of thing where you're coming off a tough year, and now you're the name. You're who everyone's talking about. Like, oh, this can be his comeback year, and we just don't know where he's going to fall in yet, and that's why they're a big story going into Vegas here, and he has been really good here, and I think he was second or third last year in that 1-2-3 Hendrick finish. And then he won that last lap thriller with Larson 2 years ago. So he's capable of stuff. We just haven't seen that from him in a while. And I love the point you made with Bell. I think he reminds me a lot of Ryan Blaney in the sense that, we don't take him seriously as a championship contender until they do it. And now Blaney, after last year, he doesn't have that issue anymore, because we know that he's able to do anything. He can win any race and he can win the title. So there's just no questions about it. And Bell's been in the championship for multiple times. He's won under the biggest stressful situations. Like, he had to win multiple times in 2022 to keep advancing, and he won each time. And last year he did the same thing. And I don't know what else he can do to prove it, other than win that title. He had a brake issue at Phoenix last year, but on mile and a half like Vegas, like, he's straight up one of the favorites. I don't know how you can look past him.
But Zach, who are you looking at in as far as who's going to park it in victory lane? Who's your pick to win this race?
I think looking at all the numbers and just how they've performed this year, where they are mentally with their team, blah blah blah. Martin Truex Jr. I feel pretty confident putting his name in victory lane. I loved his numbers. I like his racing prowess, just what he's done these last 2 weeks. We know it's a big year for him. There's no period. There's no comma, at least at the end of this season. We don't know what's going to come next. So we're talking about a guy who's going for it for the last time, possibly. He's up there in age, and he's totally capable of winning races. But some guys like going out when they're able to win still. That was big for Harvick. That was big for a lot of these guys. I'm sure he doesn't want to have a season like he did 2 years ago, when we're like, oh, maybe he shouldn't come back because he's not bringing home the butter anymore. Sure. But last year he brought it right back, and he had a great regular season and just tanked in a big way in the playoffs. So he
that was a hell of an implosion in the playoffs last year for Martin. It was honestly, it was really sad I was very disappointed, as a Truex fan, from New Jersey, like, I was deeply disappointed in that. But all the retirement rumors, like you mentioned, it's just like, he obviously wants to go out on top and wants to still believe that he can win, and he definitely can. Was more than capable, did it multiple times last year. So Vegas is a good opportunity for him. I'm going to take Christopher Bell. I'm going to stick with Toyota, but I'm going to take Bell to win this weekend. So a little JGR head to head between the two of us. We'll see. It's probably going to be Denny Hamlin as a result. But I think Toyota is going to bring it. I think they're going to have something to show. It's, Vegas has been a pretty good track for them over the years. And, as long as they can kind of get through Larson, and so maybe some of those other, Chevrolets, I think Truex, Bell, Denny Hamlin, you got to say his name. Think that they'll be able to show up and have some pretty good cars this weekend. So I like it. I like it a lot, but should be fun. Should be a lot of fun. Like always,
we mentioned, half the garage can win this race. So.
Yeah.
After this week, we'll be able to narrow it down a little bit from Ford, Chevy, Toyota, and who's looking good. But for right now, it's like, let's see who has what.
Exactly. It's still early in the year, and there's still so many guys that have shown a lot. But it's like, how much credibility are we going to give it? Right? We still, I think, a couple weeks time, we're really going to know who the surefire front runners are, who the pretenders were. And who's going to really be able to show up and maintain that consistency, especially through, how long the season is, because we don't break until July. Like, the gauntlet of the first, like, 2/3 of the year is going to be tough, and it's going to take a toll on these teams, on these drivers, morality, mentality, the whole nine. Like, this is where champions are born and made. And these are where the top of the drive, this is where the cream of the crop rises. So, you know, it's going to be a long season, but once we get there, we're really going to know who's going to be showing up every single week and who's going to be getting the job done. So there are a lot of drivers to take note of. It's a small sample so far in 2024, but as the weeks go by, we'll be able to kind of chip them off and, you know, keep a pretty good record of who we truly think is going to really rise and be championship caliber.